Welcome to Here to Be Human, a multi-dimensional soul. This is not just a podcast, it's a remembering. A space where soul meets skin and the sacred meets the messy. Where spirit is not something you escape into, it's something you embody here in this beautiful, chaotic, breathtaking human life. Each episode is a living transmission, a weaving of energy, truth, reflection, and remembrance, with questions for your soul, messages from beyond, and invitations to meet yourself in ways you've never dared to before. Whether you're walking through shadow or starlight, you belong here. I am Julie, your guide, your mirror, your voice in the void. This is Here to Be Human, and you are right on time. We were never meant to numb what is sacred. We were meant to feel it deeply, fully, with reverence. This is Here to Be Human, a multidimensional soul. And today's episode is called Why Emotion is Intelligence, Reclaiming the Wisdom of Feeling. So I'm going to invite you to reflect on a question and just gently close your eyes for a few seconds. And the question I'd like you to ponder on is, what emotion have you been pushing away this week? What feeling have you been afraid to let all the way in? And just allow yourself to pause and let that truth rise, even if it means that you pause this podcast before we move on to segment 1. So as we're moving into segment 1, so this is feeling as a spiritual language. So emotions are messengers. They carry the frequency of the soul's truth. Each one is a whisper, a signal, a guide, a boundary, an unmet need, a truth waiting to be embodied. Grief says something mattered. Anger says something crossed a line. Joy says, you're home. And fear says, pay attention. Shame says, you've mistaken a story for your identity. So you see, emotion is not weakness, it's wisdom, coded in energy and sensation. So let's begin to open up the space now for deeper insights to come through. And again, if you would like to also channel these questions in the moment as I'm channeling them, then by all means feel free to do so, or you can do it in your own time at a later date. So let's go. We always have 3 questions in our first segment with spirit. Here we go. So the first question is, what is the sacred role of emotion in the soul's evolution? So I'll say that again. What is the sacred role of emotion in the soul's evolution? So let me just sit with that and see what comes through. So emotion is your gateway in order to not only feel your emotions, but to begin to be able to articulate your felt experience. Sometimes it is hard to articulate our emotions, what we feel, how we think. It can be really difficult to be able to communicate those in words, sometimes because the emotion is so overwhelming or we feel really deeply with what is coming up for us. And so this role of emotion in that soul's evolution is really to allow you to feel into the experience in order to be able to become one with the experience, in order to be able to learn from that experience, and also to try and create artistic, exploration, but also an artistic way, a creative way to express those emotions. So whether this is through artistry or whatever creative artistry means for you, it doesn't always have to mean painting or drawing or sculpting. Creative artistry is how you want to weave the tapestry of your emotions, of your life, and how you want other people to experience that tapestry that you are weaving. And so, as these emotions help the soul's evolution, what ends up occurring, one for you, is a level of expansion, because all of a sudden you're connecting with yourself in a much more powerful way. You're then able to articulate exactly what it is that you want, because all of a sudden you know exactly what it is that you're feeling. And you may kind of stumble along the way, because that's us being humans and we're trying to navigate this experience. But that's okay, because it's also through that stumbling that you will be able to not only experience a deeper felt emotion, but you'll also be able to create words, thoughts, visions, ideas in relation to that felt experience, in relation to that emotion. And when you are able to do that, you can actually articulate all the things that you're feeling in order for other people to deeply understand where you're at, what you're trying to express. But most importantly, when you know who you are yourself, when you know what triggers you, when you know how you're about to show up, when you know how you navigate this world in the best way possible. And it does take, a lot of us, it might take a couple of years to kind of master that. Some people will master it really quickly. But once you kind of get to that place where you're really strong in your convictions, in who you are, what your felt experience is, what your emotions mean to you, all of a sudden, not only are you evolving and growing and expanding at a much more rapid rate, but you're also, through your actions and through your presence, you are instinctively teaching others on your path what the journey, if they also choose to explore, can offer them. So through your experience, your wisdom, your guidance, whether you are actively doing this or just your presence is magnetic, that people feel your energy and they feel your words. It's one thing to hear what someone is saying, it's another thing to feel it. And I think sometimes when we're able to feel what someone is saying, then it creates a stronger bond with the individual that you are speaking to, but it also really allows you to stand apart from the crowd. And I can only speak from my experience. I've learned along the way that the more I understand my emotions, being able to articulate it, understanding what triggers me, understanding what things I want to keep to myself and what things I want to share in my personal space. Interestingly enough, I'm more articulate. And even though I may speak sometimes with passion, my emotions are still anchored, and so are my words. And there's been many, many times, even just in texts. So I'm not even speaking to the person. I can feel what I am saying. And I know in the response that I'm getting back from people, they are feeling into what I have spoken about. So it's not just me saying something and they're like, oh yeah, this is what you said. And now I'm on autopilot and will just respond to what you have put forward. You will see and feel from their response that they heard you, like really heard you, and they felt the energy through the words that you have sent to them. So it can be really, really powerful when you really understand the role of your emotions, that sacredness, and how it will help your soul evolve. So hopefully that's answered that question. So I really like how Spirit answered that, and hopefully my own personal experience was able to anchor in the messages from that. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Okay, so what happens when we listen, truly listen to our feelings without trying to fix them? So what happens when we listen, truly listen to our feelings without trying to fix them? Let's have a look. when we're able to sit in the space where we're really listening to our feelings, we allow the mind to no longer dictate or put labels on your emotions anymore. Meaning that if you're feeling a particular way, your mind isn't, because of social construct or old belief patterns and systems, you're no longer going to label it out of fear or shame or sadness. You're just going to feel that emotion. And you're going to really listen to the feelings that are coming up for you. And you're not trying to then rewire that feeling to be like, oh, well, hang on a moment, I shouldn't be feeling angry. I shouldn't be feeling anxious or sad or depressed. Or sometimes we're even made to feel bad that we're feeling happy. And you see that a lot. I see that a lot in social media when people are really happy and they're expressing their beauty and all the wonderful things that they have encountered. Like, I'm very grateful I haven't experienced that personally on the social media space. But I have seen it through other people's posts and stories that there are people out there who don't want other people to be happy. And this is what ends up happening, is that we begin to deny our true feelings, and then we're trying to fix them. We're trying to turn down the dial. Don't be overly happy. Don't be this. Don't be that. Don't be sad. There's this constant thing of like, do not be X, Y, Z. And so when you truly listen to your feelings, what ends up happening is, think of it this way. It's like, so if you look at yourself as like layers, like energy layers. So you've got your physical body. So if we look at, say, the mind as an energy layer, and then the feelings as an energy layer, it's like the mind decides, the mind's energy space like loosens its grip on you, because it goes like, I don't need to label, I don't need to fix, I don't need to do anything here. And then the feeling like energy begins to rise up and allows you to acknowledge exactly what it is that you're feeling, whatever that is in the moment, and it allows you to express that fully. And by allowing you to express your feelings fully to yourself in your own space where you feel safe and sacred, and sometimes it's when we are able to sit with our feelings with ourselves first and foremost. When we sit in front of family, friends, practitioners, therapists, whatever, when we're also articulating our feelings, or when we're in a session and our feelings are arising, when you get comfortable with your own feelings, when you're sitting in those spaces, not only are you empowered by sharing your feelings and acknowledging that you're sad or you're happy or whatever, you're also empowering the other person in front of you, regardless whether you see them as the practitioner or the therapist or the healer or the seer or whatever. All of a sudden, you are empowering them to feel, because there is no one on this earth that has mastered everything to perfection. Because if they had, they wouldn't be here. Because everything about being human is to help you get to that point of mastery. And unfortunately, we cannot master every single thing in the human experience living in this modern day society, because even those who are enlightened don't master everything, because that enlightenment, that total enlightenment where like the soul meets the universe and connects back into that, that's on a whole different plane. That's like when the soul has left the body. That's a whole different ballgame. This is more about mastering your own feelings, and then from that mastery, allow yourself to go deeper. Does that make sense? Sometimes I find like, mastery is like a word that is thrown around a lot. And we can definitely learn our lessons and we can get good at it and we can master it in that moment. But there's always more. There's always a deeper level if you're willing to explore it. There's always more for you to learn. There's always more for you to grow from that experience and be better. That's why I don't really feel that there's ever a point in human evolution that is the pinnacle. Like, oh, you've done this. Okay, fixed. Off you go. I don't really feel like that, because here in the human experience, and definitely when we transcend to a different plane, when we leave this physical body, there is so much more ascension happening. So we can never ever truly master anything. It's just like humans, we create time, we create rules, everything is linear. It doesn't work that way from the soul's evolution, and it doesn't work that way in the universe. But for this particular question, if you can allow yourself to really, truly let the feelings arise and acknowledge them, not only will you be empowered, you will empower others who sit before you. So hopefully that brings some insights to you in relation to that. So next time you feel your feelings, like, listen to them. They're trying to tell you something. They're definitely wanting you to learn from whatever it is that you have experienced, or the situation that is creating that feeling. And sometimes we have feelings and we don't even know where they're coming from. Like, have you had moments where you kind of wake up and you're just sad, but nothing really, or you're feeling flat, but there's nothing really bad going in your life, like everything seems to be flowing? Sometimes that's the accumulation of things that you haven't dealt with from the past. Because it's just like, when you go on a holiday and you've been working really, really hard, and it's like the first holiday you've had in ages, and all of a sudden you catch a cold because you've like relaxed, and the body's like, oh, thank God. Now I can put the healing energy back into my body and ramp up, like, kill all these bacteria and viruses that I've been struggling to hold back from this human because they've just been going hard at things. Same scenario. Sometimes when life is amazing, we can feel that density, we can feel flat, we can feel sad, but it's only because we have avoided a feeling in the past. And now that feeling is like, hey, we really need to deal with this. And it might just be that it's for a fleeting moment, or you just sit with it and be like, where's this coming from? And you're like, oh yeah, I understand. It's because I hadn't dealt with X, Y, Z. And now that situation has been dealt with here in the physical world, I just feel like I need to acknowledge how that really affected me. And sometimes it's just talking to yourself. I find when I take the dogs out for walks and things like that, sometimes like I have conversations about what I would say to someone should a scenario arise, or what I should have said in a scenario that would have articulated what I was really feeling, or how I was feeling in the moment. And sometimes doing those little things, as weird as it might sound, really does help me put things into perspective. And so, 9 times out of 10, the situation that I'm thinking about never arises. But what it does is it's signaling to my body that, hey, she's got this. And if the situation arose, we're trusting in her to stand in her power. So, just got emotional then. Okay. Now, last question before we move on to segment 2. So, what truth is held inside emotional pain that we often overlook? What truth is held inside emotional pain that we often overlook? Now, I think we've kind of touched on it in the other 2 questions, but really, the truth held inside the emotional pain is really your inner child. And I mean, I hate using that word because I do think it's been overused, but it kind of relates to this particular question. And when I say inner child, I don't mean go back and look at the trauma that's happened when you were a child. We all have childlike energy within us. We embody the like the adult that has learned that has gone through lessons or gone through situations, and it's learned how to regulate its emotions better. But we still have childlike energy within us that makes us spontaneous and adventurous, and let's go of all of life's like hard things for a moment, just so we can feel alive and feel joy. And so it's like that truth that's in your emotional pain that we overlook, is that we try and not let that inner youthfulness, that kind of the laughter and the joy, that innocence that we find in children, that's what we're overlooking. And so that's a truth that's in the emotional pain, is like where you start to kind of go, well, where did I go wrong? And so then there's truth in not where I went wrong, but how can I do this differently? How can I show up differently? How can I change the circumstances? Or how do I now approach that? So next time, if I'm met with the same emotional pain, I'll know how to speak better to myself. I'll know how to deal and acknowledge that pain. And sometimes the truth that's held inside that pain is actually facets of you where you haven't been heard, you haven't been felt, and you haven't been seen. And sometimes it's of our own doing. So if we don't see ourselves, if we don't feel ourselves, if we don't hear ourselves, it's really difficult for others who want to do that for us. And if you can't do it for yourself, it'd be really difficult for you to do it for somebody else in its truest form. So it's really important that you really take a look at who you are and acknowledge all the beautiful parts of you, whatever that looks like for you. And when I say beautiful parts, I'm incorporating every single facet of you, everything that people say that's good, that's bad, that's this, that's that. Like all the parts of you are beautiful. That's what makes you human, right? So it makes all of us human. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Why would we come back time and time again if we didn't love this experience in some way, shape, or form? And I think it's about coming to that. So the truth in your emotional pain, next time it pops up, I want you to sit with like, well, where am I not seeing myself? Where am I not meeting myself where I need to? Because the moment you meet yourself every single day, in every single situation, that's like checking yourself if you're like, oh, why is this happening to me? It's everything that is coming up for you. Meet yourself with what is coming up for you emotionally. And the moment you do that, not only do you have power in yourself, you begin to energetically share that with the rest of the world, that all of a sudden you cannot be invisible anymore. So hopefully, it's quite big. Hopefully that sits with you well. Okay, always say like, take what aligns in the moment, leave the rest behind. You never know that, maybe years down the track or months down the track, you might come back to this episode and there might be something else that stirs something within you or kind of lands for you. Okay, so let's move on to segment 2. Segment 1 was a big one. There was quite a lot of depth in that one. Okay, so segment 2 is you are not too much. Love this. Okay. So somewhere along the way, many of us learned to be quiet, to stop crying, don't overact, be spiritual and stay calm. That love and light kind of word. Anyway, but spiritual doesn't mean silent. It doesn't mean emotionally muted. Spirituality without emotion is hollow. It becomes performance and not presence. So true embodiment means crying without shame, feeling without needing to justify, holding rage without destroying, and welcoming joy without guilt. You were never too much. You were just feeling in a world that forgot how to. So I want to bring through some of those who carry that imprint. So we're going to channel spirit. So there's only 2 questions here, and then there'll be a reflection point for you. So the first question for spirit, and again, channel along with me if you'd like. I'll come back to these questions at a later date. So the first one is, what does the soul want to say to the part of us that believes we're too much? Oh, Interesting. So, what does the soul want to say to the part of us that believes we're too much? Okay. That it's really a moment of expansion. So, whenever you feel like you're too much, your soul is saying to you, feel it. Don't label it as too much. Try not to dull the energy of it. Try not to turn it down, because this is your moment of expansion. So when you feel like you are too much, or if someone tells you that this part of you is too much, you talk too much, you feel too much, you whatever, too much, right? Your soul is saying, do not dim your light for those who are saying you're too much. Because what is actually happening on a soul level for you is that you are expanding beyond those that are in your current circle that could be saying those things to you. If it's people outside of you that you don't even know, like on social media, like who cares? Whatever. Drown out the noise. They don't mean anything to you. They have no impact on your life. They are just someone who, unfortunately, might be hurting, might be going through things and are just projecting. But I'm talking more about those that you do care about that are saying, oh, you're too much. The soul is telling you, this is your turning point. This is where you're leveling up. This is where you're expanding. Because when someone says to you, you're too much, it means that you have broken a barrier for them that they do not want to see. They do not want to know. And so if they want to stay where they are, that is fine. They may be happy. Whatever their evolution is, that is up to them. Your evolution is not to be directly affected by where they want their evolution to stay. So remember, if you feel that right now you're too much of something, or someone actually says to you, you're too much, or anything along the lines like, oh, you talk a lot, or you, whatever words that they use that tries to bring you down or to make you small, I want you to pause and actually like laugh. Like internally you can, or outwardly, up to you. But I want you to take a moment and just kind of like laugh and giggle to yourself to be like, fuck, I'm evolving. I've hit a chord with this particular person, meaning that I have said something or done something that is triggered an aspect of their soul, and their soul wants to expand. But instead of them letting their soul navigate and help them along this journey to expansion, they're trying to stifle my expansion. No more. So that's really, really important, because that's what is happening. We are expanding when people are telling us, or when we feel that we're too much. Oh, I love that. Thanks, Spirit. Okie dokie. Question number two for Spirit. How can we begin to reclaim emotion as a strength, not a flaw? I love this. Okay, so how can we begin to reclaim emotion as a strength and not a flaw? Okay, so the first thing I keep getting shown is I think it's important that we begin to write out our thoughts. Okay, so one thing, or journal, just get everything out that you're thinking and feeling out on paper. Because once you do that, it's like then you visually see all the beauty that you have been holding within you, within your energy space. So that's the first thing. Once you get it out on paper, and this might be that you continue to do this on a regular basis, or this just becomes a practice for you where you get all your thoughts out on paper, or you journal and all that type of stuff. And then what ends up happening is the more that you are having conversations with yourself, getting things out of you onto paper, and you visually see them and you read them back to yourself, that is going to give you strength to be like, you know what? Look what I'm doing. This isn't a flaw. Everything I'm thinking and feeling, all it's doing is it's helping me understand things that I may need to work on or that I'd like to work on, things that I want to expand on, things that I want to learn from other people, and where I really want my next adventure to take me. And so that's one of the ways that we can reclaim our emotion as strength. Yeah. The moment we get it on paper, the moment we can articulate it to ourselves, we can visually see it, then what ends up happening is then you know what you want to manifest, what you want to co-create with the universe. You'll have ways of articulating yourself to other people. Because the thing is, like, sometimes when things are stuck within us, especially within our heads, when we go to speak them, sometimes the circuit feels like, and the signal feels like, hang on, that's not exactly what I wanted to say, but because I was thinking something different. And it's almost like as if something's not working. And so by writing it all down, you're more likely to be able to articulate it in a way that makes you feel that you are again in control of yourself. And then when you feel like you have strength and you have courage and you know who you are, there are no flaws. You do not see the flaw in what it is and the conviction that you have to go after what it is that you want to. And you no longer see that you are a flaw because you think a particular way or you feel a particular way or whatever the case may be. And that's how you reclaim your emotions. Start with writing it all down, looking at all the ways, and then from there there's so much more you can do with it. You'll have ideas, you can go and create things if you're wanting to create workshops, or you'll have ideas maybe for a business or something to do in your current job, or how you want to show up with your family and friends. And you'll be able to even articulate yourself even better with your partners, like anyone that you have a connection with, whether it's a business partner or a romantic partner. You won't feel scared or ashamed to really honor who you are. And I think that's really, really important. So this is your reflection point. So I just want you to either close your eyes or just sit here for a moment and ponder on this question. When did you learn that your feelings were too loud, too big, or too inconvenient? And I want you to acknowledge that moment. And then I want you to offer it compassion, because none of that is true. But it's important to allow yourself to go back to that moment. Even if it feels hard, even if it makes you cry, or it might even make you laugh, now that you can sit back and be like, oh my God, why? Why did I even believe that? So again, when did you learn that your feelings were too loud, too big, too inconvenient? Acknowledge them and offer yourself compassion. Okay, so now we're going to move over to segment 3, emotion as portal, not obstacle. Okay, so feeling doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you available to presence, to intimacy, and to spirit. So when we allow emotion to flow through the body, not just the mind, it moves, it alchemizes, and it transforms. You don't have to fix every emotion. You don't have to heal every shadow or command. On command. Yes, that is very true. We don't have to heal every shadow on command, and you don't have to fix every emotion. Sometimes your job is just to be the space where the wave moves through. So I'll say that again. Sometimes your job is just to be the space where the wave moves through. So let's tune in here into what wants to be offered for us. So we'll ask Spirit 2 questions, and then we'll share an overall universal insight. Okay. So the first question is, how does emotion become a spiritual portal rather than something to bypass? So how does emotion become a spiritual portal rather than something to bypass? The moment that you allow your emotion to become a portal, it actually allows you to transcend yourself to a higher, I guess, spiritual plane is the best way to describe it. It allows you to connect deeper to the energies that are out in the universe. So, whether this is spirit guides, whether this is beings, whether this is just different planets, different realms, different parallel universes, whatever it is that resonates with you. When your emotion, when you're no longer bypassing it, when you're no longer hiding it, everything that we've just been talking about in this episode, the more that you connect to everything rather than trying to be like, oh no, I shouldn't feel that way. Or, oh, like, hang on a moment, let me just dull myself down because someone thinks I'm too much or whatever. When you kind of move away from that bypassing, you open yourself up to transcend on a whole new level. You transcend on a spiritual level. Like I mentioned before, you're connecting to different beings, you're connecting to different portals, you're allowing healing on a deeper level. And what I mean by that is when we're connecting with different energies in the universe and the cosmos, we're bringing through higher frequency, higher codes of us understanding, awareness, awakening, healing energy, all of that type of stuff, which is beautiful to experience. And even though we may not be able to articulate it into its how it deserves to be articulated with such euphoria, what ends up happening is you're still welcoming that frequency in, you're still welcoming the downloads and the insights. And then what ends up happening is that's the spiritual version of it. And then your body begins to connect with it. And then you begin to integrate with the energy, which then allows you, when you're doing human healing or human connection or whatever it is that you're creating here in the physical world that you can touch and feel, you become more open. You become expansive within your human life, meaning more energy. You're able to really go after what you want, stand in your power, create boundaries. You're able to begin to carve out the life and create what it is that you truly desire. That's what ends up happening when you stop bypassing your emotions. You open up something in the ether, in the cosmos, which then signals down to your soul, which then expands within your physical biological body, right? Everything, mental, emotion, all that type of stuff. And it expands from within outward. And then you cannot but help yourself to propel yourself forward. You can carry more, you can hold more, you'll just be more expansive. That I have experienced, so I do believe that to be true with what Spirit's bringing through. So, and the last question for Spirit is, what message do our emotions carry when they return again and again? Okay, two things I'm being told. One is they're asking you to go deeper into what it is that is coming up for you. This is not about you misread it the first time round, you didn't deal with it the first time round. Because every time an emotion comes up, we do deal with it. It may not necessarily be that we're dealing with it in the ways that we have been speaking about today, like holding that space and having more capacity for it. But you're still dealing with it in one way, shape, or form, whether you're pushing it to the side, pushing it down, ignoring it, whatever. So what Spirit is asking you when it comes back again and again, it is allowing you the opportunity to go deeper with it. So if going deeper with it for you is, oh shit, I need to acknowledge this now because this has come up way too many times. Perfect. Acknowledge it and then begin to move through it. But if it's something that you have, you acknowledge it all the time, you're dealing with it, all Spirit saying like, hey, we can go deeper with this. We can uncover more with this. We can get you to a space of looking at it differently, because looking at it differently might help you with other aspects in your world. So if you're dealing with something different, but then this emotion arises again, you're like, didn't I just deal with this? And you were like doing it in the ways that we've been speaking about. So you went deep. Spirit might be saying, look at it from a different perspective. Go deeper with what this is, because it may actually help you with what you're currently dealing with, even though whatever you're currently dealing with may not be bringing up that same style of emotion. It will still be somehow linked, because everything is linked. No matter what we do, there's always a knock-on effect based on what we think, we feel, the situations, the people that we deal with, all that type of stuff. Because energy doesn't die. Energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed. But what can happen is that our energy can be imprinted. Our energy, like when we touch something, our energy has connected with a surface, with a person. Our thoughts are energy. They get pushed out into the ether. They're all imprints of our personal signal. And so if an emotion keeps coming up again and again, it is your opportunity to go deeper than what you did before, and or to look at it from a different perspective to help you either deal with it once and for all, or possibly it's going to help you with something that you may be currently dealing with. So the universal insight here that I'd also like you just to kind of receive with love and frequency is this. Emotion isn't evidence of disorder. It's the nervous system speaking the language of the soul. And all it wants is your listening. So to close out this episode, we're going to move into our integration ritual, which I love. So this is I Trust My Feelings. And the title of this ritual practice is Emotional Validation. So I want you to place both hands over your heart and just breathe slowly. Notice what feeling is present, even if it's subtle. And I just want you to speak out loud or to whisper this to yourself. I validate what I feel. There is nothing wrong with my sadness. There is nothing shameful about my anger. My joy is allowed. My feelings are sacred. My feelings are intelligent. My feelings are welcome. And just let yourself feel without needing to label or explain. And a final reflection prompt for you right now. If your emotions were messengers, what are they trying to deliver right now? Be still just for a moment and let the body do the listening. Remember, you were never wrong for feeling. You were never too much. You were just alive. And being alive is sacred. In our next episode, we go into what if nothing is wrong with you, healing the wound of self-fixation. So until then, feel deeply, feel honestly, and feel on purpose. Thank you for being here fully. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you have a follow-up question, a reflection you'd like to share, or a way this conversation aligned with where you are right now, I'd love to hear from you. And if there are specific questions you'd like me to ask Spirit in future episodes based on what's coming up for you, send me a direct message at here.to.be.human.podcast on the Instagram page. Remember, your voice, your questions, your presence, they're part of this journey too. And if you'd like to connect with me more deeply, you'll find everything, sessions, programs, and updates over at www.moderndayMedium.com.au or on my Instagram page, which is at modern.day.medium. This is your invitation. This is the return. And this is what it means to be human. So until next time, stay with yourself, stay with your soul, and keep choosing this sacred, messy, and miraculous life.